Hello there, it's Cassie and welcome back for day 3 of the Rabbit Hole Designs release. And today they have released the All Ears stamp set. Is that not adorable? Look at all those little bunnies on top of each other, and the possibilities are endless with this little guy. And so there's lots of great sentiments. And so let's go ahead and get started with what we're doing. I used a rectangle die to cut out my pattern paper, and don't ask me where that pattern paper's from, it was just in my stash. And now I'm going to stamp out the bunnies. So I'm going to grab my Misti along with some Express It cardstock, and I'm going to ink those little bunnies up with some Memento Tuxedo black ink. I didn't want them to be at the very bottom because I do plan to do some creative cutting because I can't think of a better way to say it. So I'm going to ink those up, like I said, with Memento Tuxedo black ink, and I'll stamp them out a couple of times. And as I said, this is day 3 of the release hop, and so I'll have my blog linked down below so that you can go ahead and head on over there and check out what everybody else has been doing as well. All right, so let's go ahead and color. It's going to be some super simple coloring, but it's going to be bold coloring. I didn't want to blend out my colors too much. I wanted the pink to be bold, and I wanted it to be just a little bit blended, not much. So I'm bringing in just my colorless blender to dilute the color just a little bit and kind of push it around. But otherwise, I didn't bring in a lighter color. And I do apologize, that color I didn't put up on the screen, and I didn't even write it down. Oh, it's R83. So I used R83 because I thought that matched the little hearts in my pattern paper pretty nicely. And, you know, think about these little bunnies, how you could color them all different kinds of colors. You could do just, you know, your traditional gray or brown bunny, or even a white bunny, or you could do them in rainbow colors. You could do just a lot of possibilities. And, you know, simply because they're cartoon bunnies, you could color them how you want. That's why I decided to keep the shadowing that bold pink is what I wanted. And so I'll just continue to do that and use my colorless blender to just kind of bring that color out just a little bit. And then I'm going to come in with the RV34 for their ears and their noses. And I don't do any blending with this part. I just kept it pretty simple. Just one color for their ears. And this color is a little bit darker than that R83 that I had chosen for the shadow, which is kind of fun, I think. And then I'll go back in and color their mouths and their noses, just using that same RV34. And then for the bow, I bring in a turquoise color, and I didn't write this down either. I think it's BG07. All right, so this is what I'm talking about as far as creative cutting. I have a stitched rectangle die there that I am going to tack down with some washi tape on the outsides. And then I'll run that through my die cutting machine. But because I want to have that stitched cut all around where my bunnies are, and I didn't have the exact die to make them fit nicely, I am just going to, once I pull that out of there, reposition the die. I'm going to shimmy the bunnies right back in so they fit in there nicely, and then I'll tack those down with that same washi tape so that they don't shift while they go through the die cutting process. And then it's going to end up giving a full die cut all the way around, but it's not a full square. And I mean, it is a rectangle, it's just not the size that I had. So I thought that was fun. And that way it doesn't cover up all that pattern paper because I wanted to show that off a little bit more. I'm going to take some pink cardstock that I had in my stash because I want to have a very small border around these little bunnies. So I'll measure my bunnies in my Tonic Studios guillotine trimmer. And then I'm going to cut a piece that is just slightly bigger than that. I mean, we're talking just slightly bigger. And I didn't want to tack it down and then try and cut it because I've done that before, and I'm just not as good at that as other people are. So this way I can test it out and I can make sure that it's actually going to work. So then I'll tack that down or glue that down with some liquid glue. This is the Nuvo Deluxe Adhesive. And then I'll set that off to the side to dry. But yeah, it just has a very slight border. My card base was going to be some yellow cardstock, but it just ended up being a little too bold for what I wanted. So I grabbed some white cardstock from my stash, and I cut that to 5.5 inches by 8.5 inches and scored it at 4.25 to make it a side folding A2 size card. I'm going to stamp out the sentiment on some more of that pink cardstock that I had used to border my stamped image. And I'll ink that up with some VersaFine Clair Nocturne ink, and it says, "Some bunny loves some bunny like you." And then I'll put my white card base inside of my Misti, and I'll tack that down with my magnets, and then I am going to stamp my bunnies right there in the center. And I'll ink those up using some Distress Oxide in the color Spun Sugar. So it's not super bright, but it's still pink, and it's cute. And then there they are. I'll stamp them a couple times just to make sure that I have them stamped well. Then I'll clean up those bunnies a little bit, and I'll put down the sentiment that I want to use for the inside that says, I believe it says, "There's no bunny like you." Yeah. And then I'll ink that up with that VersaFine Clair Nocturne ink and stamp that down. So there's the inside of our card. Still plenty of room to write, but something cute on the inside. Now we'll start actually assembling the outside. I'll use that same liquid glue and put down my patterned paper. And then I'm going to use some Arteza foam tape for my other two pieces. So that'll be my bunnies and my sentiment. So I'll line the entire back of that with that Arteza foam tape. And then I'll peel off all the release paper, which is super easy to peel and release. And then I'll tack that down. It's going to be a little bit wonky. I didn't want it to be straight. And then I'll peel off the release paper on my sentiment, and then I'll put that down underneath. And then for a final bit of embellishment, I'm going to grab my Spectrum Noir sparkle pen, and I am going to be very generous with that, just kind of getting it all over the bunnies. And I'm kind of squeezing as I go, and I'm holding this up so I can kind of see where I've already been. But for some reason, my pen is a little bit stiff, so I'm kind of having to squeeze and move at the same time, because if you just squeeze and hold it there, you're going to make a mess. So make sure you're moving at the same time. And so I'll hold it up to the light with my flashlight so you can see how much sparkle is on those cute little bunnies. Isn't that fun? And so that's actually going to finish off our card. So as I said, once again, I am over on my blog, and it's a part of a blog hop, and this was day 3 of the Rabbit Hole Designs release, so I'll have everything linked down below so you can head on over there and you can get to hopping. No pun intended with our bunnies. If you like this video, please hit the like and subscribe if you haven't already done so, and then I will see you very soon in the next video. Bye!